Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Judith Patterson. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Texas, and today I'm going to show you how to make a card from the catalog. My stamp set of the week that I'm featuring over on my blog is Painted Poppies. So of course the card from the catalog is one using Painted Poppies, and I'm using the 2022 to 2023 annual catalog. So over on page 28, I'm going to go ahead and flip my camera around. You'll see this gorgeous card here using Painted Poppies, and I've picked this card because there's several things going on this one. One, all the cardstock used on this card is basic white cardstock, and you can use thick basic white cardstock for the entire thing. I've used thick basic white for the card base, but then I used just the regular basic white for everything else. Of course, it just depends on what you have on hand, on what you want to use. But I love it because it looks like you've got so much more happening here than just basic white cardstock. So a couple of the things we're going to be doing is splattering using liquid glue. We're going to be making a frame using the Gilded Leafing, and of course making our own designer series paper with the Painted Poppies stamp set. The stamp set is perfect for doing things like that, making your own designer series paper for backgrounds. Now the size I'm using is 4 inch by 5 1/4 inch for my background, but another option would be to get just a regular 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock and cover the whole thing in poppies and leaves, and then color it all, and you have a huge piece of designer series paper that you've created that you can cut up and do all kinds of things with. It's a great way to use your stamps and your supplies. And look at that, I had black ink on my finger somehow. Oh dear. And I've already got it on my card, so I'm just going to wipe my fingers a little bit and hope I don't do that again. So I'm starting with the biggest stamp. I'm going to try to cover that blob up there with the center. See? Can't even tell. Center of that stamp. So my card will not look exactly like the card in the catalog because I am stamping randomly, as did they. And so it's going to look very different. Well, not very different, somewhat different. May go back and forth between a few stamps now. And it is okay if you want to overlap a little, or those just kind of kissed there. I'm going to use this one going through the middle of the card to overlap it with a couple of flowers. Bring this one down here. And you can have lots of white space, or you can have lots of colored space. So and I guess really that depends on how much time you want to spend coloring, because now that I've stamped all of this, it's going to take me a hot little minute to color, but that's okay because I enjoy coloring. So I'm using my Stampin' blends. I have Sweet Sorbet, and I'll be using both of these, but I also have Granny Apple Green. So the card in the catalog, though, they used Granny Apple Green with Calypso Coral. So, but I decided I wanted to change it up just a smidge and use this. So I'm just going to go over everything pretty quickly with my Sweet Sorbet. I'm starting with the light one, and then I'm just going to add a few touches around the edges with my dark. So I realized a couple of things while I was coloring. One was that my hands today are a little shaky. I'm not sure what's going on there, but thankfully coloring with Stampin' Blends is easy, and even with a little bit of shaking and some random coloring happening there, I think it still turned out pretty good. But the other thing I realized is that when I painted these smaller poppies, I kept them all facing pretty much the same direction, and even the larger ones too. So I recommend that you turn your stamps a little bit more than I did, just to vary that up a little bit. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to do is, while I have this out, I'm going to grab my mat here, and I'm going to put just a dab of liquid glue on it, just a little bit. Then I'm going to grab a water painter. I think I'm going to use my smaller, let's see. So you can see there's 3 of these. These are the 2 round tips. I'm going to use the smaller round tip, and I'm going to just squeeze some water. See where it says push? I'm going to push right in that area and squeeze some water down onto this glue. You want to make sure that you clean your brush really well after doing this, but I want it pretty wet. And then I'm just going to tap this onto my card, just splattering it on there, and I'm going to set it aside and let that dry just a little bit. And while that's drying, I'm squeezing some water and on an old paper towel here, just squeezing the extra water down into the tip and brushing that out just like this, so that the water is nice and clear. There's no glue left anywhere. And once I finish recording this video, I'm going to take it over to the sink and go ahead and rinse it under the water faucet just a little bit, just to make sure it's totally cleaned out, because I don't want any glue stuck in my water painter. Okay, so the next thing that I recommend getting out are your adhesive sheets. So I've already cut a sheet of this down to, I believe, 2 inches by 3.5 inches, and actually I cut 2 sheets down. So you can choose to just use the one on top, or you can go ahead and use 2. This is basic white cardstock again, and again it is cut 2 inches by 3.5 inches, just like my adhesive sheet here. So I'm going to just place this right over here. So you can see there's going to be a little gap there. Maybe you can see it. So I'm going to flip this over now and put this other sheet on the other side. There, that one stayed pretty good. So I want this one to be my top, and I'm going to use the other side as my bottom. So I'm using the stitched rectangle dies to cut this out, and I've already got them. I used a little piece of Post-it tape to hold these together. I'm going to place them on top of here, and then I'm going to use my little stamp cut and emboss machine. Let's get that out of the way a little bit. To cut this out. And this is going to make my frame. So this is a really cool thing that you can do, and you can make any size frame as you know, as long as it goes with these dies, but you could use other dies for this as well and come up with other shapes. This is very thick, so I do recommend running it through once and then bringing it back again. And remember, when you're lining your plates up on this mini stamp cut and emboss machine, to stagger them a little bit. And since this is so thick, because we have two pieces of the adhesive sheet and the cardstock, So it's just going to use a little bit more muscle to get that through. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just take this off of here. And then I'm pulling off just this top layer. Might take your pick tool. Because I only want to pull it off the frame. I don't want to pull it off of anything else. There we go. I want the frame to stay stuck for now to its backing. Okay, so this is our gilded leafing. Be really careful when you open it up because it's very, very full. And if you have a fan on or something, or the air conditioner's blowing real hard, it will go everywhere. So you want to be aware of that. And I keep mine in just this little container here. It's easier to work with when it's in something like this, and it's easier to keep it kind of contained in your area you want it in. And you can use your fingers, you can use a brush, however you want to do it. I am going to add a little bit more in here. I love this stuff. It's fun to work with. It's a little messy, but that's okay. So I'm just going to rub it all over. And then once it's on really good, I have a makeup brush here. My daughter and I, my oldest daughter and I, we got the Ipsy bag for a while, so we ended up with a lot of extra makeup brushes. And this one is soft. It's a blending brush. And it is just right for going over all of this gilded leafing. You can see I've missed a spot right there. So if I need to, I can use that liquid glue again to fill in spots. So just gonna tap the end of my brush in the glue that I still have on my little silicone mat. I'm going to go ahead and go over this. This brush is one I snagged for my kids that they used to paint with. It's just a stiffer round brush, and it's good for knocking off some of these harder places. Of course, you could also just use your fingers and rub it off. Kind of takes a variety of things. Okay, before I put this up, I almost forgot. I want to go ahead and add some of this to the card, the Designer Series paper front that we made as well. So that glue that we put on here earlier, it should still be tacky so that this will stick to all those splatter places on the card front. Okay, what do you think of that? I love having all these little gold flakes just splattered on the card front like this. That is definitely something I will be adding to my mental list of fun techniques to do. And of course, the frame turned out pretty amazing as well. I do have this one little spot there. Nope, looking good. Okay, so let's just brush this off. I'll sweep it up later. I'm kind of covered in gold right now, but that's okay. Okay, so this I'm going to go ahead and finish pulling off of the card base, and it's already got the sticky on the back. So I'm going to turn my card, and I'm going to place this right about here. There we go. So the card in the catalog, the original version of this, it used the olive twine, the old olive twine, from this old olive and Sahara sand ribbon combo. And then instead of using the Sahara sand, they used petal pink. I don't have petal pink, and I like the Sahara sand ribbon, so I'm just going to go ahead and use it. I have 11 inches, around 11 inches cut from each of these ribbons. I'm just going to layer them over each other like so. Actually, I'm bending them each, so we'll lay them on top of each other like this. And then I'm going to try to even the ends up a little bit better. Not perfectly, but a little better. It works. Then I'm going to grab my linen thread. This stuff is super handy. And I'm just going to tie a bow, a small bow, around these ribbons near the top. I'll be able to adjust it a little bit once I have it tied. I like the look of that. Just going to cut this end off. And then I'm going to grab 2 little glue dots to put on the back of this. I'm going to put one right above the linen thread. And then the other one I'm going to put a little bit below it. And I'm just doing it on this bottom ribbon. And I'm going to place it right here, kind of in the middle of the frame. So that should all be pretty snug, not going anywhere now. So now I have another, this is just a scrap. All I did was make sure that my little die cut from Painted Labels dies would fit on it. And then I have the mint macaron ink, and I decided to use Charming Sentiments as my sentiment stamp for this one. I love Poppy Parade because you can use whatever sentiment you want with it. It doesn't come with sentiments, but you can add it to pretty much any sentiment stamp set, or just a sentiment stamp from another set with images to it. But I'm using Wishing You Everything Wonderful. Just making sure it's inked up really well. I'm going to place that here in the middle. And then I'll use this die cut to cut it out. Plate 1 and plate 2. Plate 2 has seen better days, but that's okay. So this is a really tight fit, so I'm trying to make sure that the edges are just barely covered up all the way around, so that I know it's centered really well. And I'm going to put this other plate 2 on top of it. And then it's perfectly cut out. You can see how perfect that die cut is for this sentiment. Okay, so let's just finish putting this together. It's not got that much left. So here's that card base. I'm just going to use liquid glue on the back of our designer series paper that we created. Center it as best as you can there. Then I'm going to use mini Stampin' dimensionals to attach the sentiment over the ribbon. go. And then for one final touch, you can get your For Everything Fancy sequins. I like to pour a few in the lid, and then just using my liquid glue, I'll add a few of these around the card. There we go. There is our finished card from the catalog for this week. Give me just a second and I'll get that closer for you. You can see all the different elements used on this one. So I'm curious as to what your favorite technique used on this card was. Is it the gilded leafing on the die cut frame? Or is it the creating your own designer series paper? Or is it, like me, did you love the splattering effect with the gilded leafing sprinkled over it? I just think that is the coolest thing. So if you've been watching my videos a while, you know that my favorite place to find inspiration is still Stampin' Up's catalogs. I never know what I'm going to find. I find something new every time I flip through it, and I flip through it quite a bit. So if there is a card from one of our current catalogs that you would like to see made, or a version of it made in a video, because you just can't quite figure it out, or you're just not sure, or you're just curious, let me know. I would be so happy to do that for you and get that put on my list of cards to create. And if you have any other paper crafting or Stampin' Up questions, I would love to help you with that. Of course, I would absolutely love it if you decide you would like a discount on stamping supplies and would like to join my team in order to do that. I am here to help in whatever way you need. Thanks again for watching. I hope you have a wonderful week. Happy stamping.